one day when it got to a place that I felt now this feeling of loving this man, this pastor, it's too much, but I could not really tell if it's holy, if it's okay, or it's an evil thing. So I texted him and I told him, there are some evil desires that are cropping up in my heart and I don't know what to do about them. He just told me, can you share with me? I told him, no. He told me, can you look for a friend who you can share with? Maybe they are not as evil as you think. And that previous Sunday he had preached in church, even the desires that you have in your heart, they are God-given. But now, I started now talking to God seriously. And I told God, I know you are not author of confusion. And what happened in that time, there's a brother in church who really reprimanded me when I told him what I am getting in dreams. When he reprimanded me, I got angry and I told God, God, I did not sit down to premeditate these things. They started coming to me through dreams. And now these things, I don't know if it's confusion. Remove them from me. And then that night, I dreamt a longer dream. And in that dream, it showed me of my life with him, how we are going to date, how we are going to get maybe a post or not to get even approval from the people that we think will approve us. I saw things, that was back in 2014, I saw things that some of them happened in 2020. I saw my whole life with him, like my whole life with him in a dream. And I woke up, and when I woke up, I was feeling him all over me. And I thought that I would get raptured because of that. And I remember, I was still in fasting. I remember that day, it was allowed, the following day, it was allowed lunchtime. I talked to God. And I told God, if you ever make this man look at my way, even look at me like a woman, because he never had any signs to show me like he can even joke. He was not even joking with me. So when I said that, I told God, if you ever make this man ever look my way, I will give of everything that is of me and that is me to make sure that his purpose comes to see the light of day. And I made like, I call it a memorandum of understanding with God the Father. And I did not, that's when I realized this is true love, because I did not demand anything from him. From God, I just told God what I would do. I did not demand anything from him. I just tied my whole existence to his purpose. And that was it. Then, after some 2 days, he could tell now what is exactly happening in me. He texted me, told me that we are going to have a meeting on Monday. On Monday, that was on a Thursday. But we did not wait for Monday, so we met. When we met,
Sunday.
Not Sunday. We met first on Friday. On that Thursday, actually, on that Thursday. And he told me, Kiki, I want to marry you. Will you take that? And it was that he did not start with courting or dating first. He started by proposing. He just told me openly. He has never spoken to me about love, but he had just asked me, Kiki, I want to marry you. Will you take that? And those were the most heavenly words that has ever landed on my ears. And I told him, yes, because I knew of the dealings. I had begged the Father. I had requested the Father, if only this man looks my way, I will give my whole life to him for his purpose. And now he tells me that. And that's the time I realized, God, you're so serious with me. You're so serious with me that I was wayward in the world. I have even a murder case that is not yet solved because of a love triangle. I'm just from being a kind of Mbaba somewhere. And now, even with this, and then I was looking at him. This is a man who has known all my dirt. Because I had found a solution giver. So I would expose things that I have never spoken to any other human beings. And then, how can you still look at me and think you can find a wife in me? That thing made me realize that God really loves me. And he never looks at me with any condemnation. And that thing made me even more wholer. I became more whole. I became more fulfilled in life. And that's how now our dating began. And it started with a proposal, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's some things, sometimes it happens, then eventually you look back. And then I remembered when we had started dating, I remember there's a particular point in time when I was having a struggle with God regarding serving, because I had that kind of a strong Christian background and such, and then there's this pull of God to serve him. Then I'm more in my other interests, because I was saying, I don't want to be a pastor because I've seen what pastors go through. So I remember that time I was in campus, and there was this particular kind of struggles with God in terms of doing ministry work and such. Then one time in a dream, God comes in a dream, then he tells me my story. He shows me my future. Then he tells me, you're going to marry a woman, and he gave me the first name. I said, you're going to marry a woman by the name Sarah, and you'll have 2 boys, and you'll be traversing the world preaching the gospel. So you see, most of those times when eventually when you're going through life, eventually maybe you say maybe that name was just symbolic and such. But eventually now we are in the relationship, and then that moment comes, and it is something that has gone many years ago, because some of those things, they don't appear necessarily to be spectacular when you're getting into that convergence. Then everything eventually begins just to make sense. So we begin our dating life, and when you say that immediate, like next year we're going to get married. That was 2014. We're saying we decided that by 2015 December we're going to get married, and we tried all managing church now here, and you're like you're planning also your wedding and such, and things began hitting a snag. We go to the family and such. Okay, when we started dating, it was not hard mostly on our side, because we will go home, see the parents. Of course, maybe you're not telling them, but parents can always speak that this guy must be the man influencing this girl's life. They could begin to pick those kind of things. But I remember when I went to my side, first of all, there was just a snag, and things just hit her. Also, in terms of preparation of the wedding, is like we could try to put everything together, and it was like a mountain. You're trying to raise a young ministry, raising finances for wedding is like you just hit a snag. So we put some things on hold, and then I think panic really hit us to really plan for our wedding. So it was like we are ready to get married, but at the same time we are not yet also ready because of the challenge we met at that junction in terms of preparing for our wedding. And that 2015 became a stretch that went up to 2017. Even up to 2016 December, we are like still not so sure. We were like I remember went home during that December, and I passed by my aunt's place, and I was telling her, I think we are going to just go to the AG, and she said, but because you're church people and you're supposed to be the example, you just strive, even if it's something small. And I came and talked to her that December, and like in January, we said, I think in prayer, she was praying, and then say, fix the date and begin working towards it. So we fixed the date in April, for April 2017, and began working towards it regardless of whether we have the finances or what. To say we have somebody to officiate it, we have people to attend and such, whether we wed by the roadside. This time round, we're going to wed, and we became just joyful about preparing for our wedding. We because of already being leaders, we are shooting so high. Sometimes the wedding is something that is of the community, and sometimes people don't really understand the pressure that people are facing. So we had shot for a very high, world-class wedding. And she was like, for her, she's like, hey, things have to work. And for me, I'm like, we got to ask the grounds alone. They told us it is 120,000 grounds without anything. So I remember they're telling us 120,000, then I pay 5,000, say, this 5,000 are booked grounds. And she was looking at me, you're not serious. This is already February. Your wedding is in April, and you're supposed to book, they're telling us you're supposed to book the grounds with 50%, that is 60,000. Then after they tell me that in a hearing, I give 5,000 and say I've booked the grounds. I'm like, yeah, that's serious. We go to the events, events planner and such, they give us the entire budget, we choose what we want. In all those kinds of hundreds of thousands, I say like this is, in that 2015, we had paid a deposit to a particular event planner, 50,000. So I called that person and I say, remember in 2015, our money is still there. I say, yes. So we said, we have booked you still as the event planners and such, so let things start rolling. So I started dealing with things small here, just throwing in a little money here, there and such, and it was like, the wedding was, and you see, and for us, we didn't have a committee to raise money and such. Every time we used to meet, it was like, to be party, got eating and such, and just making fun rehearsals and such. And time is really going. We are approaching the date, but we were so much energized to plan for the wedding and such. So we planned in that short time. Actually, I believe most of the things we actually used thorax. We used a lot of force. So we said, because we are coming from different tribes, of course, and we expected that maybe there could be some. Okay, there was not much resistance in my family in terms of tribes and such, but the other factors in terms of even tribe and such. Then one time we left church and decided we were going to go home. Like we're planning everything within a very short time, and we're going to force our way. Like we're going to tell them, this is the date you put, and people will get shocked. You mean you already said this date? You say, yeah, this is the same thing we told you about 2015. You're just reviving it. I remember that time we drove after service in the evening. We drove and we were going to Western. We arrived home at around 2. People have gathered. Some of the people I don't know them, and so we are sat in that council and they're talking to us and asking us questions in terms of how have you prepared, all these kind of things. And then they're like, so I tell them, of course I've interacted with my spouse, parents and such. They don't have a problem. They've accepted me. They're just giving us a go ahead. You say what we're able to do. And say, then there's a guy there who had never seen my entire life. Actually, I was sleeping when I'm taking them through that process. Say, no, sisi waluya. Lazima tu tupeleke ng'ombe. I'm like, we can't be given a guy just like that. We have to take. So it was like quite an interesting. So we have just to raise some cows and such and take to the girl's parents. So then the funny thing, the same guy also in the same meeting then tells us, and if you're going to come to Nairobi for a wedding, it means you have to give us fare. And I'm like, I'm not sorting anyone fare. You're the one who's saying you're going to raise cows. Can't afford fare to. It was very funny. So it was, there's some kind of force that was applied in some, I think we rubbed off some people the wrong way in some areas in terms of our preparation towards the wedding. And then again now, for me, I was to deal with the battles on my side. And in case of any battles on her side, we had to deal with them. And we prepared our hearts in advance and said, if we get attacked, because we can't take these things personal, because it can begin to, in a relationship, somebody can begin to say, use cases, your so-and-so say this, your so-and-so this. So we were like shielded ourselves through that process that nothing will interfere and such. So that became how we really prepared and drastically just transitioned our dating life and got into marriage.
You see, now we are dating, and my parents are coming and they are seeing me together with this pastor. And they are saying there's something that really made my family jerk, because they did not like the way I have indulged myself with church. And that now comes without saying. They are saying this is the most influential person in my life, so they were not really comfortable with it. And I remember one time my dad came, and he came to tell me that he has come to tell me that I need to go slow with church. And I looked at him and I asked him, Dad, now our relationship is even better because God has healed it. Because one of the things when I got born again, God told me to forgive my dad. And it had become so good, we became friends. He passed on, God rest his soul in peace. But we became so close. And I told him, when I used to drink, when I used to come home with a crew of boys in a car full of alcohol, drinking up in the morning, nobody had ever given me advice. When you even heard that somebody was killed in my house, nobody, even my family, came to ask me any question, as long as I seemed like I'm doing good in life. But now you hear that I've gone to church. I'm calling people in my house, not now to drink, because I used to always have people drinking in my house. We are drinking tea and talking about Jesus and dancing and going to church. And you think, now I'm going to get poor because of church, or I'm going the wrong way. And I asked him, Dad, can't you see there's something wrong here? There's something that is not so right here. And now, there's one day he asked me, the boy that I had taken home before, just right after college, he was a lawyer. So he told me, you are with a lawyer guy, and you have taken another lawyer. And I told him, the issue is not lawyer here. Because if it was lawyer, you didn't have an issue with the former lawyer guy. So the issue is not even the tribe here. The issue is this thing of church that you people, you don't want me to go. But this, I told them clear, this is my path with God. It's not even if the man leaves me, this is my path with God, and this is where I focused. So he looked at it and said, oh, I think it's just people who are really feeding me with fitina. That's why it's that way. And he could tell, and I could ask him, don't you see I'm happier? Don't you see I'm healthier? Don't you see I'm lively and I'm calm? And actually my life is no longer in danger. So when my mom came, and she was coming to tell me, are you really sure that this is the man that you really want to marry? I told him, yeah, I made a decision. And you see, that time I was in my past 30s, so already I'm financially stable, so there is not really much of control, and also I'm this kind of a person, maybe I have a dominant personality. My family members, they approach me in a way of like, try to woo me, they cannot just come directly with an opposition. So I told her, yeah. And actually, when I told him of the discussion that we're having, he told me, tell her actually next Saturday we are coming home to see them. So that time we gathered few uncles. He gathered few uncles from his side and aunties, and then friends, and we went. And when we went there, I told Dad, one of the things that I told Dad, whatever we come with here, Dad, just take it. Whether we'll come with 1 million shillings or whether we'll come with 10 bob or with nothing, we're just coming to say that we appreciate you for being my parents, and we honor you, and we will start planning about our marriage. So my dad was a very easy person, and we had that friendship. And he said, yeah, as you want it, that's the way it will go. So when we get to the dowry part, we get inside. I remember I was telling my mom, I will stay here and I want to look. Anyone who wants to oppose this marriage, you'll have me to deal with. So I sat in the room. And you know, in the Kikuyu negotiation of dowry, the girl doesn't have to be there. But nobody had the courage to tell me to walk out. So I'm sitting there looking, and I could see all the wazes that ameshaweka kwa mfuko. There's no one who is going to oppose what I've said. And these are same wazes I used to buy beer when I was a drunkard. So also I had a rapport with them. So I looked, all the women who were my mom's age, they didn't have an issue. They were just there because I have said, and they knew this is an agreement between me and my dad. Na dad ndiye kusema in terms of dowry. But then it reached a place, one of my aunt, Shosho, it's not my mother's, not a direct Shosho, but is an auntie to my father. She looked at me and she had a fimbo and said, you leave. I felt so bad because now I didn't have a choice. So I just left the room. And then they discussed, and they gave, together with the uncle, they gave whatever they had carried, and it was accepted. But they said that we are going to do an actual Kikuyu dowry where you slaughter sijui she-goat and sijui what and all that, all those things. Those things, they did not sit well according to my faith and what I have found God. Especially like I was saying, like taking home alcohol, and in my family we have battled a history of alcoholism. I said, this is like making covenant with these things that I'm trying to run away from. And I talked to my dad and I told him, any money we bring you, don't even label it anything. Just say it's just a present from my daughter. Whether, don't label it, it's a goat or anything. And I would see how those things were going. So I was not happy about how that and Shosho did. Now turning like he wants us to do the traditional way. Yet I had asked my dad, allow us to do it the church way, because now me, I'm coming as a church person. Just can you, as my father, allow me to do it how I'm feeling comfortable? And he had agreed. And now this Shosho has overturned everything. And remember, I really got angry about it. But by the time we were going for the second time, she had already died, which is unfortunate. So for the second time when we went, actually we just went, both of us, with whatever little money we had. And our parents just told us, go ahead. Because we went to tell them, it was, I think, in February, and we were telling them we are wedding in April. Like the wedding date is already set. So they blessed us, and they said, even if you did not come with anything, because my parents are understanding people, even if you did not come with anything, just go ahead. And I knew, even if the resistance was there, the stand that I would take is what will cause the trajectory of what my family will say. Because when they see that you're adamant, they will not be, they were not having that influence to try to sway me. And they realized. There's a time I said, I told them just a day before our wedding, they came, and one of the uncles started talking about how important dowry is, and And I looked at them and I told them, do you want, we can even go now, me both together with this young man, we can even go and get loans and give you the money that the family would want to call a dowry. But maybe you'll never see me again in that home. Is that what you want? Because we don't want to go into debts to get into marriage. It will mess us. And they just allowed us to flow. They blessed us, and we had a very beautiful wedding. My parents were very much involved. They even contributed to the money that was funding our wedding. They really made it beautiful. And both sides of parents and family, they were very supportive, actually, that day. But you see, what was happening since 2014 to 2017, it's not that there was no resistance. Actually, I would see so many things in the spiritual realm and the opposition that is coming, because the opposition that was coming, it was not more financial, it was more of the emotions that rise, like to pinga the marriage. And all that, those years, mostly what we were doing is to pray together, to pray for our marriage, because we knew our marriage is godly ordained. Actually, it's for the purpose of God that He has put in us. So we had a lot of battles. Why we did not experience battles physically is because we were able to handle them spiritually. And we were able to pacify any heart, and we were able to make all of them to bless us. Yeah.
Okay, there's while growing up, always, like, for me, I had a very instrumental dad in my life who, like, even when I met my wife, I was telling her, I wish you meet my dad, because he passed on when I was in Form 4. He was one of the wisest men in terms of that, and I learned of him. Then I began preparing myself to be a husband right when I was a toddler. Like, I was like, I want to be a really functional husband. I was like, I'll imagine of all those kind of things, then even just temper myself in terms of being husband. And then my intentions about like what I wanted to bring in marriage was through me. I was saying I would want God to vindicate His word through me in my marriage life. So there was that prior preparation. Now the rest of it, okay, most of the time somebody will think that because you've had those prior preparations, it means now you have it just smooth. But you realize when you've developed as an independent person, whenever you're coming into a relationship, there are things that there's further development. It doesn't matter how much you prepared yourself. So it means I had to really learn, and you have to learn with God, because, you know, a man is egoistic, and you see, and for those people who are married, don't get tired, because living with a man is no joke. And don't want a man to be reduced to be less than a man, but you really need to understand the potency that is in a man. Then ask God to give you the wisdom to understand. Then also the man understand what is the purpose that you have to impact in a woman. One of the things is, when I say how God has really impacted my life, is the ability to perceive some things. Now, I look at her not just as my wife and such, but I'm looking at her as a mother of my generation. You see, that pivots a lot of things in terms of how I will respond to her, how I will treat her, how I will face myself, because even until today, I'm still perfecting myself to be a husband. It's not that I've already attained, even with all those kinds of praises. Every single time I'm like learning, and God also helping me to learn, because it's quite a journey, and it's interesting. The moment you're in that place of the joyfulness where you have locked a focus, everything else now begins to come into perspective. You can be able to draw divine guidance. You cannot draw divine guidance or say God has helped you before you lock a focus. It is that focus that you have locked that will filter how you observe the challenges that come, how you respond, how you think, how you transform, how you store things in your heart. And yeah, that has been my journey. I'm saying how God has really impacted my life. I believe also the equation of God brings another perspective, because there's a time you can be myself. But you see, if you're in a place of wanting to please God, it means you're looking for another dimension to influence your current self, to adjust and align to a particular. So eventually it always makes it to become better and better and better as time goes by.
Actually, one thing that I tell people, it's better to marry late and marry light. instead of marrying early when you think is the time and you're not ready, and you marry wrong. Because whoever you become tied to becomes now yourself, and you'll affect everything of how your life trajectory will take. He will be the father of your kids, will be the mother of your kids. And I tell women, if you look at a man with his totality, if you're able to discern a man and look at that man and think that you will never want a son who is exactly like him, just know that is not your husband. That's one of the pointers. Well, for me, I'll say maybe I have had it a bit easier than other women, because you see now this is my spiritual father. He became a father to me before even becoming my husband, and that did not stop. But that's how marriage should flow. Actually, the husband should be fathers to your wife. That's why the walking down the aisle is the father that walks who gives the lady, because it's exchange of fatherhood. And I tell women, do not get married to a person that you cannot look upon as a father, because that will be an issue, because marriage is developmental. And one of the things that I say, for me, what has really helped me in marriage, apart from marrying an excellent guy, it's also because when I got into this, I did not come with any conditions, and I just tied, even for our wedding vows, we had a very flexible bishop who was joining us. He allowed us to do our own vows. We did not make any vow with death or disease or sickness. We just made vow with thriving life, and he made us like to flow with ourselves. And I remember how I made my vow. I attached my vows to his purpose in what we are supposed to do in life. And I came to this marriage without a backup plan, because most people are coming into marriage with backup plans. And that's when you have a backup plan, just know a time will come, that backup plan will have to get used. I came to this without backup plan or an exit strategy. And that's the thing that made me, why my relationship were failing earlier, is because I'd tell, even before getting, if this happens, I will get out. If this happens, I'll get out. And you see, when you start now envisioning such things and having that now these things are the things that can make you leave a marriage, you might get to that door, and most probably you'll get to that door. So it's not that we do not experience challenges, but when we experience challenges, my attitude is that whatever challenge it is, there is nothing. Actually, I tell people even in church, there is nothing I have confronted in life so far that me and my husband, we cannot solve. And I am so hell-bent to believe, or heaven-bent to believe, that there is nothing that we cannot solve together. So when with that attitude, it doesn't matter what mountain of a problem comes, or opposition, or hardness, or storm comes. And I tell people, when the roots are deep, there's no fear of storms or wind or anything that might come to try to destabilize you. So mostly what matters is the mentality that you get into marriage with. The mentality really shapes how your life will flow, because people say that marriage is not a bed of roses. But you can make it a bed of roses if you want, because everything flows from how you see, your perspective, your perception, and how you believe that a thing. We shape things with our meditation, and that's how every problem is either big or small by how you perceive it. So what matters mostly is the perception, and knowing that you can be able to work on something. And it's not that we don't solve things because that we have decided just to be together. We actually really solve things. I'm actually that kind of a person. If there's a problem and not getting solved, I will stick there until we get a solution. But you see, we don't come in a way, how we relate, it's not that we come in a way that to prove who is wrong. Because sometimes I'm wrong, sometimes he could be wrong. It's not about to prove who is wrong or who is. It's about when we are coming together, we are fighting, we are looking for a solution to better ourselves better. And actually, for the few mistakes that we have made in our marriage life, actually it has made us tie on a higher level. That there are so many things that I have told God, thank you that we were able to make that mistake, because now how we solved it, it left us tying on a higher note. It has fortified us. It has made us, his philosophy was, in marriage, love should not diminish. It should actually increase. And that time I was not understanding, because I would tell what was happening. People say when you get kids, that's when their love go down. But actually, from my side, I realized we are more in love than we were when we were starting. Like right now, it's really, really hard. You could have separated us maybe right from our honeymoon. But really now, it's really hard. We are so intermingled, so hard. When even kids came, even our intimate life went to a higher note. And I was wondering, what do people say? But I came to realize it's all the perception that people get into. How you shape your perception, the mentality that you get in. The divorces that you are seeing, they did not start because of the problem that arose. Those divorces started before you got together, because you entered in something. If this happened, I cannot forgive. If this happened, I'll check out. If this happened, so when they come, the only thing you're looking is now a strategy to go out. And when you are living in anticipation of problems, they will actually happen, because we manifest things by what we are stayed on meditation on. Yeah.
To my lovely wife, you've been a great support, an accomplice of supply of wisdom, and a developer of complex dimensions in our development. My life has become more deep in God, more self-developed, and more in the place of self-awareness, self-mastery, and self-manifestation through you. And people get married and they feel constricted. For me, I got married and I became more freer and more liberated. I fly higher and empowered than I was single. I will never desire any other option. It's like you are the perfection that my life needed. And to me and to you, normally, you know, that what you usually say, that even in heaven we will still be married. We can't get tired to be married even in heaven. And that is my love letter to my sweet wife and the mother of my generation, Kiki Wesonga.
Just allow me to laugh. Because the first time I told him that we'll be married in heaven, he laughed at me. Yeah. So for me, I just want to keep repeating the things that I say every day, even to the public and to our children, both biological and spiritual, that I have come to believe that God is real because of how hard, how ferociously you have loved me. You have fathered me in a million ways. You have made me whole. You have amplified the life and the essence of who I am. And one of the things that I'm so thankful about life is ever meeting you in that Java shop, restaurant, because that's the time that my life took a different trajectory, the right trajectory. And I feel honored that God can allow me to be beside you, great man of wisdom, to do life together with you, to see you loving our children the way you love them, to see you fathering them. And actually, I wish that every woman, every daughter, every woman who looks upon me, every woman who is my friend, even the women that are elderly, that before they die, they'll get to experience what I've experienced in marriage, that they get to have that, the healing that comes through the right partner. I thank you, and I remind God every time that God, I am because of this man. May God always increase you. May God always expand you. May God always continue making you great and great.